Hi and welcome to this week's walkthrough video of our Bible lesson. This week we are going to look at one of the classic Old Testament stories, one which most people are familiar with, even those who haven't read the story in the actual Bible. And that is the true story of David and Goliath. So if you haven't already done so, can I encourage you to head over to the website at truewaykids.com, and there you can download this week's lesson and follow along. So once you download, you'll see the front cover. I made the design there of Goliath and David with his sling. Just gives the kids a bit of an idea of proportions as well of how big Goliath was. As we enter this week's lesson, on the first page, as always, is the introduction. There's a QR code here which takes you to some videos showing the cartoon, showing the story on YouTube, as well as some songs and worship ideas that go along with this week's lesson. So what are the main points I want us to focus on this week? Well, the passage is found in 1 Samuel 17. And it's a great passage to read with your children and make it interactive. So I encourage you to do so. And below is some tips of how you can do that. But some points. Firstly, David didn't let his size limit him from God using him. So we can remind our kids that even though sometimes they feel small, they feel unpowerful, to do something that God can enable them to do it, even to face giants. Secondly, David remembered that God is much bigger than the giant in front of him. And so we can remind our children that sometimes we face problems and difficulties, but God is always bigger than our problems. Thirdly, David couldn't use somebody else's protection. He had to use his own. God protected him. When he went to King Saul said, okay, but you need to wear my armor. But it looked ridiculous on him. He couldn't move in it. And so we can encourage our children. God has gifts especially for them. They don't need to do what other people are doing. God has something for them to do. But it's also faith is unique. We can talk about how our faith doesn't work for our children, or our pastor's faith doesn't work for our children, but they must have their own faith and trust in God. And finally, David remembered God's faithfulness. Why would he have such confidence to face Goliath? Well, he remembered the time the lion came and the time the bear came and God protected him. And so we can remind our children how important it is for us to give thanks to God. So some ways we can make this lesson interactive. Just point out a few. There's lots of weights in this lesson, so we can weigh things. But I really encourage you to draw a shape, or either on the floor or measure it against the wall, how big Goliath was. I wrote it here. He's 290 centimeters, 9 feet 6 inches. And you have your child measure against that. Then what I would encourage you to do is read through this passage, 1 Samuel 17. You may want to tweak it to be a bit more child-friendly if you think that's more appropriate for your child, or read it from a children's Bible. How to make it interactive? Well, every time you say David, to remind your child that he was small, have him kneel down on the floor. Make himself small. Every time you say Goliath, have him stand up on tiptoes to remind him that Goliath was big. Then take some objects that they can feel through his objects. You can take a leather strap to explain what a sling was like. Collect some stones. Ask him to sort which stones were smooth and which ones were rough. Have him count out 5 stones. Talk about how that's how David did. Lots of ways you can make it interactive. So I really have him engage with the story and act it out. Another idea is to take some adult clothing and have them try on some of maybe your clothes and do simple activities like try to eat some food or walk across a room. And they'll find it difficult when the shoes are too big, or the trousers are too long, or the jumper sweatshirt is too big and they can't get their arms. And then it's a reminder again of how Saul's armor was useless for David. So below is a lot of ideas of how you can do this. So I just encourage you to use some of them. Inside the lesson, I've done again a 2-page story. There you find David excited to go and his brother scared because Goliath's in the distance challenging them. But David remembers God's faithfulness against the lion and the bear. He goes to King Saul. King Saul says, wear his armor, but it's far too big. But then he has confidence. He gets some stones and goes out to fight Goliath and wins. Again, you can use this as a reminder to reinforce a lesson. Use it as a bedtime story. Use it to cut out and sort to get the order of the story. However, it helps you the best. Some games and activities which you can go along with this week's lesson. The first one is just weights and sizes. So as I mentioned, there's lots of weights and sizes which come up in this week's lesson. What I think it will be fun to do is to weigh some objects and also try to find some objects which are the same size and weight as what we read in the account. So try and find something as big as Goliath was. Then you can also try and find something as heavy as his coat. So his bronze coat weighed 125 pounds. So obviously you will need to help your child, but try and find something which weighs similar, or stack objects together to make that sort of weight. The iron on his spear was 15 pound. So try and find something in the house which weighed that much. It give your child an idea of how big Goliath was, as well as help them to learn about weights and measurements. Secondly is take aim. So David obviously had to aim at Goliath's head. So you can just put some cups on a table and try to throw in a ball, a ping pong ball. You can put a cup like bottles or something on the table and try to knock them over with a bean bag. There's so many games that involve aiming, so just play ones with the items which you already have at your home or church. Then rock painting. So as you went out to collect some smooth stones, take your child for a walk, or even in your garden, or you could take them to the beach or to the stream and have them find some smooth stones. When you get home, you can paint them with faces, make them look like characters, or just patterns, or anything you want. For extra activity, then why not hide them around the garden, around the room or house, and take turns in trying to find the 5 decorated stones. So I made this week, which is a memory verse. It says, "The battle is the Lord's." It's found in 1 Samuel 17:46. The idea I want you to do is just to cut out the stones and have your child rearrange them in order. Obviously, your child will need to have some sort of recognition skills, so it's better for older kids, more closer to 5. But you can help your child to sort these out. Brings us into this week's worksheets. First worksheet is all about number 5. So we have the 5 stones there. There they can practice writing number 5. Then here they write 5 at 5, and here's some simple maths. So the answer is always 5 in this written thing, but 2 plus 3. So have them count out 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 equals 5. Just some simple maths using the stones. Next page here is King Saul's tent, and that is just join the dots. They follow numbers along to draw the tent. Once it's finished, they could also colour it in. Simple spot the difference here of David with King Saul's armour, which is too big for him. They must spot the differences in the picture. There's 5 again, just to reinforce the number 5, which we are learning about this week. Carrying on the idea of clothes that don't fit as well is to match your clothes. So you have 3 people, and they must draw, so the baby's clothes, draw a line down to the baby's clothes, to the man, the dress, the woman, so on, about having the right clothes that fit. And this week's craft is quite an easy one, but it's a fun one to do. And you have a picture which I made this morning with Timothy, which is just a simple felt bag. So all you need is the A4 bit of felt. You would cut it in half, and then on the one section trim it down a bit. Then you need, with the adults needs to do this bit, just make some snips on the side, which then later the child can thread some wool through using a safety needle or a plastic needle. And then just leave a longer loop which you can put around the neck. Once done, go back to the activity which you mentioned earlier. You can go out to find some smooth stones and have your child pick them up and put them in your bag, reacting out to what David actually did. So the full instructions are here, and hopefully I'll get a chance to make a craft video to go along with it later on to follow through. A couple of colouring pages included as well. Here's David out with Goliath with a stone going towards him. Here's a picture of David with his sling, and then one of Goliath there in battle. So again, you can use these as additional resources. Use whichever ones you prefer, or use them as an alternative to the craft if you're maybe in a church setting and don't have time to sew the bag or resources for that. So the final page is some worship ideas. Only a boy named David, the armour of God fits me good, and make a difference. Some prayer ideas, as well as information about next week's lesson, which is when Saul gets jealous of David. And there's a QR code again as a reminder of this week's worship ideas, and some videos to walk you through it. Well, I really hope you have a blessed time this week following along. And it's always encouragement for us to hear from you. If you don't follow us on social media, we do have a Facebook page as well as Instagram. So you can follow us there and even send us some photos and videos of you doing these crafts and activities, and that really encourages us. But I just pray that you'll have a really blessed week with your child as you explore the Bible together and this account in 1 Samuel. May God bless you, and I'll see you again next week as we look at another lesson together. God bless.